This video is looking at an extract from Act 2, Scene 4 of Twelfth Night, and it's the extract where Viola, dressed as Cesario, is talking to Orsino, as Orsino is bidding her to go back and woo Olivia on his behalf again. So looking at it initially from an understanding point of view and then trying to lay over the analytical point of view, you can see that I've already put some annotations there. So the extract starts with Orsino saying, "Once more, Cesario, get thee to yon same sovereign cruelty." So go back to the same woman who's been so cruel and yet so powerful over there. You remember that Viola has referred to Olivia before as sovereign cruelty. And he wants Cesario to tell Olivia on his behalf that his love, which is more noble than the world, doesn't value great amounts of just dirty land. So it's not for her grounds, it's not for her territory, her property that he loves her. And the parts that fortune hath bestowed upon her, tell her I hold as giddily as fortune. So the way that she looks, that fortune has given her, well, that doesn't matter either. That I also hold light. It's just kind of fate or chance. But he wants Cesario to convey to Olivia that it's the miracle and queen of gems that nature pranks her in attracts my soul. So this idea that tell her that it's actually, her personality, her value, and all these wonders that nature has given her that actually attract him. Now we've got some things to unpick there. First of all, he's referring to Olivia as sovereign cruelty, and we can assume that actually, this is coming in the middle of this conversation, that Cesario's called her sovereign cruelty because that has been Viola's phrase. But the fact that Orsino is adopting Viola's words shows a connection between them rather than a connection between Orsino and Olivia. And he personifies in part his love to say, his love is more noble than this, his love doesn't want that, his love doesn't want this. But within that personification, he's also kind of distancing himself from those feelings. They become something that's abstracted, that's apart from him, rather than part of him. And he makes sure that he kind of dismisses the commercial aspect, so her land, and the aesthetic aspect, her looks, so these sections here, in favour of, it's what I know of her, which is again ironic because he doesn't actually know her. He's playing the role of this courtly lover, of this kind of idealised, almost Petrarchan lover who's being dismissed by his cruel fare. And actually the reminder here, there's a lot of connections between Orsino and Viola here, including, he talking to Cesario. We're reminded that there's this aspect of hidden identity. This is actually a woman playing a man at this point. Viola's disguised herself as Cesario. But Orsino has got more connection with Viola than he has with the distant Olivia, who he doesn't really know. You can look at the metaphor there, the kind of connotations, the preciousness and the value of gems, the idea of the kind of near religious context of miracle, and that nature has given to Olivia. But it all comes down to the fact that, he doesn't know her. And this part is kind of moving or dramatic because of this repeated dramatic irony that we know that Viola loves Orsino. And she is having to stand there and listen to him talk about Olivia, his apparent love, and is being sent to woo on his behalf. So Viola kind of questions, if she cannot love you, sir. And this, again, is going to, this use of a question here works on a couple of levels, because on one level, it's Viola asking, well, what happens then? I've kind of spoken to her And I know she's not interested. If she keeps sending a no back, what happens? Because Viola wants to know for herself because she loves Orsino. Whereas if you take Viola speaking as Cesario, this is an interesting kind of development in their relationship, that Cesario is asking questions of his master. You know, that there is a greater equality developing in this conversation than would otherwise be the case. And you remember that this is a play about kind of status and hierarchy and knowing your place, because look at Malvolio, look at, you know, Sir Toby saying, you know, hang him, where Malvolio thinks about, you know, maybe marrying Olivia. So, you know, that kind of equality and status. Orsino comes back with the assertion, I cannot be so answered. You know, I won't take that for an answer. It's impossible that I get that answer. And his assertion there is this refusal to accept reality. And it can all be couched together with the idea that, you know, this isn't real for him. He doesn't know Olivia. This is wooing from afar. He's getting Cesario to do his wooing for him, and he won't accept the answers. And again, you know, the response he gets from Cesario, sooth, but you must, you know, God's truth, but you must, you're going to have to. This is, you know, over and above what you'd expect from a young courtier, for example. And she gives him this example designed to kind of appeal to his logic and reason, even though he's talking with this kind of heart-based or dream-based kind of courtly lover persona on. And she gives him the example that, for example, take it, there's some lady, as maybe there is, who has such great feelings for you as you have for Olivia. Well, you can't love her. You've got to tell her so. You know, she's got to accept that for an answer, hasn't she? And Orsino, rather than taking that logic on board, sees what he perceives as a flaw in Cesario's logic. Basically, that women are not capable of his depth of feeling, of a man's depth of feeling. So there's no woman's sides can bide the beating of so strong a passion as love doth give my heart. You know, there's no kind of ability for a woman's body to contain such a strong feeling as is driving me. You know, they just can't do it. No woman's heart is so big to hold so much. They lack retention. We'll come back to that in a moment. But that they lack retention. You know, they can't hold it. They can't keep that in. And, you know, again, real kind of dramatic irony that he's talking to a woman who indeed feels that level of love for him. And this is, you know, what's making it moving, because poor Viola cannot tell the truth and is having to listen to all of this. And she's dropping hints later on in this scene like mad, but he's not listening to them. He's not picking them up. And, you know, Orsino here using this pronoun to divide, you know, the Duke and Cesario, those men, from all the women who can't feel. And yet he's calling on this common feeling with Cesario, which is ironic again, because, you know, Cesario does feel like that, but is a woman. So, you know, it's kind of being set up that Orsino, it's moving and dramatic because the audience understands what's going on. Viola understands what's going on, and Orsino doesn't. Alas, their love may be called appetite. And then he moves into the metaphor of appetite and says, well, you know, sadly, you could say they've got an appetite for love, but it's not a movement of the liver. It's not that kind of deep, intrinsic, strong feeling. It's the palate. It's just taste, right? So the palate, when you eat something and you've got a good palate for it, a taste for it. And palates, you know, your appetite for something suffers too much. It cloys. So when something becomes kind of, just a bit sickly because you've had too much of it, and revolts, kind of turns against it. So women may have a capacity to love, but it's shallow, he says. And this triple says, you know, he doesn't consider that this female love really kind of can be sustained. It gets too much, it cloys, it kind of starts to be rejected. But his love, mine, is all as hungry as the sea. So he moves his metaphor of appetite into this simile, which is ironic because as the Arden edition kind of notes, Orsino has earlier in Act 1, Scene 1 referred to the sea as causing loss, but now the sea is kind of everlastingly hungry, just like his love. And he says, he can digest as much as the sea. We're back to that, if music be the food of love, play on. And yet even in that scene, he says, right, I've had enough of it. So you have to kind of question Orsino as a lover. And again, that makes it slightly kind of more moving, because you're thinking, Viola, look at him. Is he really worthy of you? And he instructs, another kind of assertion there, another kind of order imperative. Don't compare the love of a woman for me with that I owe Olivia, that I'm feeling about Olivia. And if this is set out properly, I've got this from the internet, so it hasn't really shown this shared line. That line comes in here. Okay, so it's finishing Orsino's line. So that and this rhyme here, I would argue, shows this connection between Viola and Orsino. There's that repetition, the connection, there's the full rhyme on no, there's the fact that she comes in and finishes his line. That is called hemistichomythia. If you can't remember hemistichomythia, by the way, just say shared line in the exam. Stichomythia is alternate lines. One line, one speaker, one line, one speaker, one line, one speaker. Hemistichomythia is a shared line. And again, this relationship, Orsino asking questions of Cesario. He wants to hear Cesario's views, which again is kind of playing slightly around with the hierarchy. And Viola goes into this story of the apparent sister, but she's riddling with it. She's kind of creating this puzzle as she starts to introduce these. There are different layers of meaning here. And she says, again, dramatic irony, she knows too well what love women to men owe. So she knows absolutely how much a woman can love a man. And she says they are true as heart as we. Okay, so there's that we aligning her with men, but also aligning her with Orsino. Women can love as much as we love. And the implicit kind of thing is as much as we love each other, maybe as much as I love you. Then she sets up this scenario where my father had a daughter, loved a man. As it might be, perhaps, were I a woman, I would love your lordship. So my father has a daughter who loves a man as much as I would love you if I was a woman. Okay, strange thing to say. But Orsino, again, questioning what's her history. He wants to hear more from Cesario. And this idea of a blank can be, he says, I don't know. And Cesario doesn't know because this story isn't finished yet. We don't know at this stage, and Viola doesn't know how this story is going to end because she's not told her love. Yeah? And she's let concealment, so hiding it, like a worm in the bud, feed on her rosy cheek, a damask rose. Okay, and this simile here highlights the potential for a tragic outcome, because so often there's that fine line between comedy and tragedy, and it turning away from tragedy at the last moment and everything being resolved. If you have a worm in a bud, it's eating up the flower before the flower blossoms. So when it comes to blossom, there's nothing there. So this simile is an image of wasted potential, that this love is hidden and is therefore doing damage, because she pined in thought as this worm feeds on her cheek, her rosy cheek, her complexion, her health. If you pine, you kind of miss somebody, you kind of long for them. And green and yellow were colours that were associated with illness. It was that kind of opposite to a healthy pink complexion. So with a green and yellow melancholy, she sat like Patience on a monument. And Patience, again, was a figure in literary terms, a personification sitting under kind of great weight, under great kind of restriction, usually under a yoke, like some sort of thing on her shoulders weighing her down, but smiling, bearing the weight that was put upon her. right? So Viola is, talking about this sister as such, but actually is talking about herself, sitting there smiling at grief, trying to keep on this pretense, this mask, whilst secretly kind of being sad inside, which is exactly, ironically, what she's doing here. Was not this love indeed? So she says, surely this was love. Please give me some value for this. And again, the right to ask questions comes in, the right to seek his view. And then Viola turns to give a female view of the masculine approach to love. She says, ironically, we men may say more, swear more. So, but indeed, our shows are more than will. For still we prove much in our vows, but little in our love. So, we men say a lot, we swear a lot. And, actually this demonstration is little more than kind of just what we want. Because we say a lot in our promises, but we actually demonstrate not that much in our love. We don't always come good on it. And Orsino wants to know more about this sister, wants to know more about Cesario, we have to think. But he fails to kind of listen to or decipher what she's saying. She's being quite paradoxical. She's being quite riddly in this. Because, did your sister die of her love, my boy? And again, ironic, that kind of possessive there, that pronoun, my boy, you are mine, identifying them together. And all Viola can answer is, I am all the daughters of my father's house. Correct, factually. And she's giving it in this kind of metaphor. And all the brothers too. So Orsino will take it, well, she's an only child. The sister must have died because the father only has one living child. And yet, I know not. So I don't know how this turns out. And again, for dramatic effect, for, the idea of making it moving, the audience don't know how this turns out at this point. And the actor playing Viola can give it a beat and can then say, well, shall I go and find this lady? To pull herself together and get back to the task in hand. And Orsino picks up this idea of, that's the theme, that's the idea, that's the subject of today's lesson, almost in school. Go quickly to her, give her this jewel, say, my love is not going to budge. My love is not going to give way at all. If you give place, you step back and make space for something else to get in. So my love isn't going to stand back. Accept no denial. So again, there's this kind of abstraction of love, almost. There's the detachment of Orsino from this wooing process, and the idea that, of all the people to send, he's sending Viola, who's in love with him. So how does Shakespeare make this part of the play so moving? Kind of, if you were constructing that as an answer, you're looking at the fact that you have got this apparently, maybe unrequited love going on with Viola and Orsino. You've got Orsino kind of ploughing on ahead with go and woo Olivia for me, being completely and utterly oblivious. And Viola's desperate attempts, or increasingly kind of clear attempts to try and make Orsino understand that there's something else going on here, those kind of different layers, as well as kind of showing that, it is moving because Shakespeare is arguing against the view that women are not capable of great emotion, of great love, of great fidelity, because Viola is on stage kind of as the embodiment of that. Hopefully that gives you something to write about. It's a nice little extract, and make sure when you're doing your answer, if you are writing analytically, that you are looking at it from an analysis point of view, that you're looking at it from the perspective of Shakespeare's use of language, rather than treating Orsino and Viola as actual characters. Okay, good luck.